Welcome to the Jurassic Park podcast. I am your host, Brad Jost, and today we have our full spoiler thoughts on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 4, and I am back again with my good friend. What side are you on in the video? Tom Jurassic is here. How you doing, Tom?
The same as I was in our non-spoiler video since we recorded them back to back.
That's true, but these are coming out several days apart. So are you good this day as opposed to the other day?
I am psychically predicting that I will be okay on this day as well.
Well, let's fingers crossed. We'll see. Hopefully. Before we get started, again, a huge thank you to DreamWorks Animation for giving us a chance to watch this ahead of time. We thanked them last time as well. We'll continue to thank them over and over again because, you know, it's awesome that we have the chance to make some content for you guys ahead of time. It makes them so much easier on us to be able to have this stuff ready to go in the queue, popping up right when the season comes out or in the embargo day for the non-spoiler stuff. So thank you so much to DreamWorks for letting us watch this early and giving us that access. Really, really appreciate it. Now,
I agree, Philly.
And for everybody listening, if you have not watched Season 4 yet, please back out, leave, turn your back, go turn on your Netflix account, watch all 11 episodes, and then come back to us. You know, I just want to see you walking away as you go back to your Netflix account because
Brad, our viewership figures have gone down to 0. What's going on?
Bye. Go watch the show first, and we'll see you come back later on. But if you do want those like spoiler-free takes, we did an episode on that a few days ago. So if you have not seen the full thing, please go back and listen to the spoiler-free takes in our podcast feed and on YouTube. But this is going to be full spoilers, complete conversation about a lot of the things. We're going to go point by point and discuss all the major spoiler things here. So if you have not, this is me just wasting time for you to get out of here. This is like several minutes of me wasting time. If you have not seen Season 4, leave. But without further ado, why don't we go ahead and dive into the full spoiler reactions here for Season 4. So, Tom, I want to start on what was one of my like biggest things that I was like, all right, so guys, let's speculate on what's going on at the end of Season 3. Season 3 ends with a boat. You know, the kids are on the boat. This boat's driving away, and there's a dinosaur in the boat. And what's that dinosaur? It's a compy, and it doesn't matter whatsoever. You know, that's the thing. So again, that's a little plot point that I was like, oh man, like that's it. When I saw that, and this is in the first episode of the season, I'm like, oh, all that speculation, all those thoughts, all those theories. And there were, let me tell you, there was a theory for each and every dinosaur that exists on Nublar, and even some that probably don't. But like,
we thought it was Robert Muldoon finally escaping into Nublar all of these years later.
Look, I mean, that has been said. Hap, you know, the guy from season two, right? We thought about maybe he was in there. I suspected a baby raptor, but none of that happened. It was a compy. So when that was revealed, I was like, oh man, a compy. And it was used in a way to like, all right, let's have one last hurrah with the dinosaur before we get off this, you know, off this place and you know, back into Costa Rica. So I was a little disappointed that it was just a compy and it didn't necessarily matter to the rest of the story. And also, shout out to that compy. I'm so sorry you got killed. That is horrible. So
well-deserved death, in my opinion.
Oh,
almost as deserved as the Brachiosaurus in Fallen Kingdom.
You're bringing that up. You're gonna make me like numb to the whole thing, and it's not even gonna matter anymore.
I'm sure we'll see another Brachiosaurus die in Dominion. Don't you worry. Yeah, I think so. The thing with this reveal is we said it when we reviewed Season 3. Season 3 felt like it could have ended on that note. And really the only thing stopping it from ending organically was the presence of this animal on the boat. So you felt as if whatever was on the boat had to be something really significant in order for the story to continue. So to have it just be a compy felt pretty underwhelming. It kind of being brutal. I think they made it a compy so they could make episode 1 last an entire episode. Because otherwise it would have just been the mosasaur attack and then it would have led to them being on the beach. So it felt like it was used for a padding effect more so than anything else, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it was used to pad out that episode and then to showcase how. Well, maybe we'll skip over my second point here. How intimidating I was throughout this entire season. Because
Oh,
guys,
for God's sake.
if you're not sick of me and my name, well, guess what? Go watch season 4 and just hear my name, Brad, constantly said around every turn. And
I'm
let me
never
tell you,
gonna hear the end of this.
here's the thing. So we're going to talk about the Brad and the Brad X. Okay. So,
Are we just going straight to it because it's your name, so it's the most important thing?
it's the most important thing from this season. And here's the thing. So I laughed so hard when I heard that. I was like, actually, I wasn't sure. I was like, wait, did they say Brat? Or like I literally did I've been complaining about my entire life, how nobody knows what my name is, and even though it's just a normal name, that like people don't hear it correctly. And like I did the same thing. I was like, did they say Brat? There's no way they said Brad, right? And they did, and what was it? It was like a bio robotic.
I
I don't
had it
even
written down, but I didn't prepare
um,
my notes. I can find it quickly if you
assistant
want.
droid or something like that. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
how did they settle on those words to make it a Brad? And I was
It's
like,
because
what is
of you,
happening
Brad. It's
here?
because of
No,
you.
I'm not gonna take any credit. I was just perplexed. I'm like, how did you guys, Scott? How did you settle on Brad? Because
You say you say it's not because of you, but we've not even started talking about the Jost bot that shows up at the end of the season as well.
seriously. No, but so here's the thing with the Brad. I was like, okay, I actually like I dig the robot dinosaur. I'm sorry. No, 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 no. I dig robot dogs.
You
I
just
dig that.
ruined.
I said the worst, the opposite thing. I really dig the dogs. I think those are pretty cool and they're intimidating. They're and they're believable to a point where like maybe that tech's a little far out of our reach right now,
Mm,
which is where Jurassic usually lies. It usually is a little bit outside of our scope. So I'm like, okay, that's very, very cool. I dig that. They have these like, commands, and then they can like shock things and knock things out. It was all very believable. I'm like, okay, this is just like Boston Dynamics, times 100 or something. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then Brad X shows up, and no.
it's a robot velociraptor, essentially, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
goofier.
it is. And so this actually popped up, I think, in the EW article. They had mentioned that they had mentioned somewhere in the article that like, and then there's a robot dinosaur, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no, it's not a robot dinosaur. It's a dog. It's definitely. Why would you say a robot dinosaur? It's just for sure a robot dog.
and
And
you were
no,
like, "Oh, this is as bad as it gets. It's fine."
but I was fine. I'm totally fine with the dogs. I love the dog. If they had continued with the dogs the whole time, I would have
Yeah,
been totally on board because they are intimidating. There was many shots of them like in the dark and you see their red eyes, or in the fog and you see the eyes, and it was pretty cool, and they're fast and they're scary. Like, so that was great. But the Brad X was just goofy looking to me, and
yeah,
I could not get past that part of it. I think that was like where the believability ends for me. I was like, okay, so this, like, I could see this world existing, in the future, in Dominion or something like that. If hey, a robot dog shows up in Dominion, cool, I'm all for it. But then you have this robot shark head looking thing that's super goofy. It just didn't really do it for me. So that was a big bummer note for me, and it took up like half the episodes. And yeah, I just cannot see that existing in a Jurassic World universe. So, how about you?
yeah.
What do you think about the Brad and Brad X?
I think for me, even the default Brads were a step too far. Like having
Yep.
this shocking gun that came out. I was saying to someone, and I was saying to you actually, that they remind me of these robots that appear in more of the worlds. And I'm gonna send you a photo quickly, live on stream, just so we can get your reaction for everyone watching at home. I'll send it over FD. Just because I think that the similarities, when you look at this, you're going to see it. And for me, the things in War of the Worlds, granted they're made by futuristic humans, but these are like humans far in the future. And the similarities are just like spot on. So it
Yeah.
really pulled me out of it. And I was like, I'm watching some alien invasion thing now instead of Jurassic Park. So
that
I
is
think
exactly pretty much, minus like the head's a little different.
yeah.
But
and the heads in War of the Worlds are way gorier because they fire like a projectile bolt. But yeah, it really pulled me out of it. And I think that's the thing is Jurassic is such a fine line with technology. Like I know a lot of people have a problem with the hologram in the Innovation Center, for example. But I feel like for me that works because it kind of feels quite natural with that building and that building being the forefront of technology.
yeah.
Whereas this, you've kind of got this rival company that aren't InGen. We've been told that InGen are always like the most sophisticated company out of all of them. And then suddenly you have these people with robots going around everywhere and like reflective walls that perfectly mimic the landscape. This is really what I meant in our non-spoiler episode where I said it felt a little bit too much like Westworld for me. And I've really suppressed my feelings around the robots because I think they ruin what is otherwise a good season for me.
Yeah, so I think that this is definitely one of the cons, the Brad X specifically. Like I said, if you kept the Brads, I would have been good. You seem to not be, but like that's where I was like, oh man, that's a big one that like really weighs it down a lot. So it is what it is.
If they'd been Brad J's, we would have been fine, but it's just Brad
would have been
X's,
great. Would have been great. Just a bunch of me's being like spilling out theories that don't make any sense along the way. But anyway, that's the Brad and the Brad X. I am so sorry. Everybody. I had nothing to do with this, but I feel like it's all my fault. So let's move on to the next point, which is the very, very end of the show and the season. Not the show, I guess. It can continue on. But we had a big reveal here, which I know somebody had mentioned and I had discussed at some point. And I basically was like, I don't know if that's where I really want to see this thing going. Like,
yeah.
But Kenji's dad is here. Kenji's dad. Did they say his name? Was it Daniel or something? I forget what they had said.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe not. Forget the name. Anyway, I thought it was a pretty interesting reveal, and I was actually into it. Maybe if I wasn't into this idea before, I think the way that they handled a lot of this season and previous seasons, and a lot of this season was about Kenji coping with a relationship with his father and like how he would do maybe instead. Take over. I got a cough.
My brain has just put so many dots together. So it's revealed that Kenji's dad is the person in charge during Manticore, and it now makes sense why in season 1 and 2 Kenji was always talking about his dad having all this back-end access and seeing all of these things behind the scenes, being in the tunnels at Jurassic World, because the whole time Masrani trusted him and he was just stealing research for Manticore.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I'm like a little under the weather.
I like how you're just like, yeah. Anyway,
because you can't ignore it because of the video. So I'm like, I'm still, on video. But yeah, I've got a little cold or something. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it is interesting that there's the potential that he was, stealing a lot of stuff maybe out of the park. But it makes a lot of things interesting overall. That I don't know if we'll get to today or not. But I did like that, that reveal at the end. He steps out of the fog and he's got his very demanding voice and he's like, I forget what he said, but he comes out and he stumbles his words and he's like, "Dad?" And he's like it's just the back and forth and you're like, "Oh, like why? Like, did he know all along that this was happening? Like, has he been like aware? Like, I don't know. It's just crazy." And I just don't know. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? It seems like he's probably still a bad guy, even though a lot of this stuff in this season felt like it was Cash's doing an idea. A lot of the way I was like, and we'll talk about that more. I was like, I don't know who is who here. Why didn't he help out? Why didn't he get somebody to this island? His son is out there. Like, what What is
Yeah.
happening here? Like, what? I know the relationship is strained and not great, but why didn't he help out? And it would have been a great way to say, "Hey, my son is stuck on this island. I got to go there," or something. Like,
Yeah.
what happened here? And I really need more. And I cannot wait to see how this plays
I'm
out. And
excited to see how it plays out. Yeah.
like,
I
what
am.
is the conversation here? Because that is a cliffhanger right there. Like a
Yeah,
big
it's a really
hard
big one.
stop. It's it's a big one. And then like I want to see that follow up conversation
Yeah.
and see like if at that point it's wouldn't you just be like, Kenji, what are you doing here? And then, all right, this is done. This is over. We're shutting this down for a minute. I'm taking you guys home. Cause like,
Yeah.
and then it's like I gotta come up with a story and all that. But like I feel like they would just go home after that. But who knows? Who knows?
Well, Brad, you're forgetting quite a big detail, and
Oh,
I
am I?
think it sets the tone for his dad not being a very
Yeah.
nice person.
Mm.
So the cliffhanger is basically the kids get trapped with a very cool choice of dinosaur that we will discuss a little bit later on. Um, but Cash makes the point of saying that he didn't know what was going on, but Kenji's dad set the trap for them to catch them. So Kenji's dad was willing to trap people in with dinosaurs just to catch what they were doing on the island. So that's not a very nice person at all.
No, yeah, I get the idea that he's not a good idea because they still wanted to set up some sort of showing here for investors.
Yeah.
Um, but it was very confusing along the way. I was like, does he like because he's shutting down Cash and his ideas like
Mm.
of certain things on the phone. You hear a lot of back and forth on the
Yeah.
phone. But then he also wants this stuff to also happen. I was very confused about his where does he lie in all of this? Because you have Dr. May Turner, who is like a nice character who really helps out the kids. Then you have Cash, who's like a bad guy. I feel like this guy he could be in the in between of them. But I don't know. I still am unsure. You know?
I I get the feeling that he's bad purely because the stuff that he was happy with Cash doing was the main stuff that we see Cash doing. That was the stuff that he wanted him doing the whole time. Because there's a phone call where he says, "Just stick to doing this." Are you happy for me to just say what it is?
Yeah,
And
go ahead.
then yeah, so there's dino fighting in this, which is something that I think a lot of us have speculated. It kind of makes sense that, say, in the modern day stuff being sold at Lockwood Manor to the Russian mob guy, for example, it's probably going to be used for something nefarious like that as well. But
Yeah.
in this context, Cash is kind of trying all of these other ideas. And when he's on the phone with Kenji's dad, his dad is like, no, just stick to the fights and get them ready for investors.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
find that quite interesting because it's again he kind of strikes me as like the morally bankrupt version of Masrani essentially. So Masrani was pretty detached from everything that was going on in Isla Nublar, and that ultimately led to the creation of the Indominus Rex. But I think if he really knew about that stuff, he would have stopped it. Whereas, and you see him try to stop it in Jurassic World with that conversation
Yeah.
with Wu. Whereas it feels like Kenji's dad is the antithesis of that, and he doesn't really care.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it doesn't seem like he's a good guy, and he's willing to let all this stuff happen. And I'm interested to see how that's explored,
Yeah.
going forward, and why like I don't know. There's a lot to think about and stew on for a
There's a
while.
lot to
Um,
unpack with this season.
yeah,
And it's like I said in our non-spoiler review, a lot of it, you look at it and the robots and things are very goofy on the surface level, but then you think about some of the deeper themes at play here, and actually there's a lot tonally that ties into our relationship with the animals, and also the human element, because I think that's a big thing in Jurassic World in general. I mean, Fallen Kingdom again, you have humans auctioning off dinosaurs. They're not thinking about the animals. They don't give a
no,
whatever. They're just thinking about making money. And again, you see that explored here. So when you get into it, it does tap into those darker themes from Jurassic, which I think is what season 4 does really well.
yeah, it's almost like season 5. It sounds like if they're going to continue with their plan, the investors and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, this is kind of like a Jurassic Park for
Yeah.
this island in a way where like we're gonna have people come out, see the island in progress, and then later open it up to the public or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how this is all gonna play out. Cash is you know, a major part of this season. Haley Joel Osment, I think he performed it well, but I wasn't really into the character very much. And I think overall, this, you know, I know a lot of what we see as like shortcomings with Camp Cretaceous turn out to be, you know, probably a budget issue or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to fill this park with tons of people and things like that. But the fact that this park was Cash and Dr. May Turner, and that's it. Like it didn't seem like there was anybody else anywhere ever. It was like just robots and
Yeah.
two people. And I was like, I took issue with like Cash being like the sole developer of a lot of this, and then we find out that
Yeah.
he was also the person who intimidated Sammy's family, and so like it seems like a lot of this is like him, and like
Yeah.
he is just straight evil. Where that's why I'm questioning, you know, the dad there. I'm like, I'm not too sure, but like because we haven't seen a lot of his side yet. But like Cash is like willing to like kick a kid, you know, and push him into like a dinosaur trap or like, you know, just kill people left and right. He was willing. He literally thought he killed uh Dr. May Turner, and he's like, well, that's settled. You know, we don't have to do anything about that anymore. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like he is straight up a bad guy who's like kicking his robots down into the water and just like he doesn't care. He's willing to
Yeah.
let dinosaurs fight in front of him and create killer robots in general. Like so, a lot of this I took issue with like how does he develop all this stuff? Like how there's no information on the biomes really. Like how is this island developed? I want to know more about that. Like what's going on there? How did Cash did he do all this himself? Like create these things or I know there was a comment in the series about some outside company that made something or other. I forget what he had said, but I think it was about some of the
Oh, wasn't
robots.
it the chips in
The
the
chips,
robots?
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it was chips. So like there is some people working on some things, but a lot of this is like him, and like so I'm like confused as far as a lot of that's like,
Especially with how many Brad X's he makes really quickly as well.
yeah, and plus we also know that the dinosaur, I'm sorry, the Brads are working on the Brad X's too, so
Yeah.
there is like so robots can maybe build robots. I don't know, which is possible. You know, robots build cars
Westworld.
every day. No, robots build cars every day here,
True,
you know,
true.
so it's possible. But
Slightly different robots though, Brad.
almost, you know, they're kind of like the robot that like takes the dinosaur egg out of the you know, hatchery. That's
Yeah.
that's basically what we have. But Cash is an interesting one. What do you have any thoughts on Cash in particular?
At times he reminded me a lot of Danny Neddemeyer from The Legend of Isla Nublar, the Lego show.
Sure.
He was very eccentric. I thought he was genuinely quite dark, and he sort of, in many ways, he made me think of like a cross between that character of Dan, like a cross almost between Dennis Nedry and Lewis Dodgson. Because he sort of had the childish moments in Nedry where, like the video game, for example, he couldn't stand the fact that Darius had beaten him at the game, so he had to go back and do that with him
It's
until he
cheating.
won it. But yeah,
No, but
yeah,
he was
yeah. But
cheating. He's
then,
like,
like for
I can't
Dodgson,
even beat this kid.
yeah, and then for Dodgson, he's like very cunning. And there were like a couple of moments that I think called back to the Lost World book where Dodgson kicks Sarah off of the boat with like him joking with Darius about feeding him to the raptors. And you're like, is he joking or is he actually going to do that? So I thought
Yeah.
he was quite a sinister character, which was nice.
Yeah. I got the feeling that he would have done whatever he was saying.
Yeah.
But like he also like was really dumb because like he's not catching on. Like you every like around every turn you're like, oh, he knows what's happening. He thinks Darius is like planning something, but then he forgot about it. He doesn't care, and he's like, yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
Darius, do your thing. Like I believe what you're saying to me, and you're like, oh, like he doesn't catch on to what's happening here behind the scenes. So he was an interesting character, but and I talked about it before of like how much of this is him versus Manticore itself, you know, because
Yeah.
Manticore on one hand, it's like, a company that, as far as Dr. May Turner is concerned, she's doing great work, in this company to do a lot of research, and
Yeah,
she's talking about the facility of, like, when this facility's up and running, we're going to be creating, breakthrough after breakthrough at this place. So it's like she seems to be on the side of good, and she doesn't even know. She only learns about Manicore's bad side from the
yeah,
kids. So, I'm like, how much is Manicore doing behind the scenes? Like,
yeah.
what does the front of Manicore look like?
I
I
find
don't.
it really
Why
interesting
did
because
they have
that's
this island? You know?
it's probably the exact same with a company like Biosyn, isn't it? Like I would bet that in Dominion, Biosyn are introduced as this company that are helping to capture and round up the dinosaurs, and then
Maybe.
it's only behind the scenes that you have all this shady stuff going on. So it's really interesting seeing the parallels there, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out. It will probably be very similar because we know that there's going to be bad stuff behind the scenes, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know what Manicore's up to, and like, and how much of it was just cash, because he seems like a bad guy doing a lot of stuff on his own. And it
Yeah,
was interesting to see Sammy's reaction. She, like, literally was like, I got to go confront him. This is bad. The kids ended up stopping her, but it was pretty intense there for a bit. He's a bad guy. So I hope maybe more is revealed in the future about this company and what they're
yeah,
doing.
me
You know,
too. I'd really
but
like to see Manta pop up in something live action. Now, I don't think there'll be in any future projects on the horizon, but it would be cool to see something that maybe explores their backstory a little bit more pre Camp
yeah,
Cretaceous and what exactly they were doing.
yeah, and like, there's no reason why, maybe if a character or something is in a city in Dominion or something, and they pass by a building that has like a poster for like Manicore, like there could be like an ad
Medical
on the side.
pharmaceuticals.
Like, yes, they're why would that not be a thing? Like, expand the world, make it feel real. Why not have a billboard or something like that
Yeah.
shows Manicore, or a commercial or something, like, the side of a bus stop, you have those little ad things on the side. So, yeah,
Dino Fight Arena now in San Diego.
Not much to say. I didn't have this in the notes, but not much to say about Dr. May Turner. She was a great addition here. I thought she was really cool. She seemed to be doing some great work, really smart. I love that
Yes.
it opened up the world a little bit, where Darius is like, I know you. You look familiar. And then he's like, oh, I got it. Dr. May Turner. So that was pretty cool that it opened up the world, and she is a celebrity to him, just like Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler and all these people. It's like really cool that this is another one of those characters for him.
Yeah, there is one connection I really wish they made here. So obviously she's a dinosaur behaviorist and she's looking particularly at their neurological pathways and how we can communicate with them. I
Yeah.
really wish that they said that before joining Manticore, she had been a part of the Ibris program before Jurassic World fell. I think that would have been a really cool, nice piece of connective tissue to show her after InGen got caught in all of these court battles post Jurassic World. Maybe some of their talent was leaving to work for other organizations. I just feel like something like that would have then kind of added more credit to that program in the first film as well. She'll be thinking, okay, so Owen can communicate with these creatures. Maybe that's something in the background he's been working on with Dr. May and that kind of stuff. It just seemed like there was such a close correlation in those two projects that I feel like maybe at some point in time they were meant to connect up, but then ultimately they didn't.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what her backstory could have been, but yeah, she also could have been a program, like part of a program like Jurassic World Live Tour showed, which was
Yeah.
all about the behavior of, like, the emotional element of these dinosaurs and stuff,
Yeah,
and
so that's
literally
spot on.
communicating with them. So, like, a lot of the
Yeah.
elements that she's working on feel very in tune with what happened in Jurassic World Live Tour. So that's pretty cool. I mean, so there's and I think, we'll get into even more of it here, but in a little while. But the emotional state, the connection with the dinosaurs, all that stuff was really awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this island here for a second. Um, what are your thoughts on this, whatever this island is
Yeah.
overall?
So I have a theory on where it is. I
Okay.
think I can't remember if I did a spec. I think I mentioned it in the trailer breakdown I made, but there's an archipelago. It's off the coast of Costa Rica. So I think it would be really cool to have it like set up there. So it's just within range of Nublar to get samples off of it and grab things. But yeah, in terms of the island itself, it's cool. It's just it's really weird, like you say, with the biomes and the way it works. Because all I had in my head the whole time, while they were going between all these biomes, was I was sat there thinking, this isn't Manticore, this is Monarch. This is like that dome facility that they keep King Kong in on Skull Island. It must be.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it makes
again, a little
and Westworld. Yeah.
Yeah, a little too far fetched, and I think that's maybe where I think. So I think you can draw a lot of parallels between season 4 and how Manticore are presented and how Monarch are presented in the Monsterverse. And in the Monsterverse, Monarch, it works because you gradually see their technology grow over the films.
Yeah.
So in the first Godzilla, they're basically just working with the US Army. Then in Kong Skull Island, you get like old-fashioned monarchs, so you learn about their background. Then in the second Godzilla film, you finally get a little bit more futuristic tech with things like the flying wing, the Argo, the USS Argo, and that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. Whereas here, it was just kind of like, hey, have all this really futuristic tech straight away. And that is, I think, my biggest problem is I could get past the robot dogs as much as they are a sticking point for me. I would be fine with them if it wasn't for technology like this as well.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. Like it looked awesome, and there was a moment where like a pteranodon like smashed into it, and I was like, yes, that's awesome. Like you actually show the boundaries here, which is really cool. And it was just like kind of like I could side with this tech, and I'm like, okay, you know, I guess somebody developed this. I don't really understand it per se, but like it seems like it's an island that maybe from the top just looks like a normal island, but inside these, you know, the land somehow are these biomes that it's like hard to even talk through them. Like I don't know how it exists. I just don't understand how it exists, but it's there.
Do you know what it makes me think of?
What?
My Jurassic World Evolution parks, where it's like just a tropical island, and then randomly in an enclosure, there's sand painted in the boundaries of an enclosure, and then nowhere else.
Yeah, I know. I've thought that before when I'm like, okay, here is this place, and then, okay, there's sand here now. So, but yeah, I thought it was cool to be able to travel in these tunnels, like in between. It really felt like Westworld to me. There was that, I forget what, maybe season 2 or something like that, where they were able to travel between everything via like these places, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But you know, you believe it in that show, and like you were saying with Monarch, you believe it, even though Kong Skull Island, not that one, Godzilla versus Kong took it to like level of 100 with like flying things that like can travel into portal, like, so it's like, oh, okay, you know, I can believe it there though. It makes sense for me. Here it was like a little iffy for me. So, but I also take issue with how does this island exist in this world? So close to Nublar and maybe close to Costa Rica. I just don't understand how nobody knows
has
this
found
stuff.
it. Yeah,
like, it's just like really interesting.
There's a couple of broad issues with it. I think this island being one of them, and then we'll probably touch on it next. I think, which is where some of the dinosaurs have come from as well. Because it just feels a little bit like surely somebody else would know that's going on. Especially like you say this is that Costa Rican archipelago. It's not that far from the mainland. There's going to be boats going past. There's going to be people seeing it, that kind of stuff. So I think that in terms of the logical world building here, okay, so I'm going to you do have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, essentially, to sort of make it all fit within this universe. Now, I'm going to blow your mind on the subject of the island.
Here you go. Blow my mind.
In season 1 of Camp Cretaceous, we get that throwaway line from Wu that canonizes the InGen Martel facility, the facility I always talk about in Siberia, where he says they found woolly mammoth remains. If Kenji's dad is friends with Masrani, like we know he is, then he likely would have known about that. And he was clearly preparing to steal something from that environment because there is an Arctic tundra environment on this island. And it doesn't seem like any of the other animals really fit within that location. So I would fully bet that that location was constructed with the anticipation that woolly mammoths were on the way from InGen.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean that's impossible to tell, but I do think that this island, which I speculated ahead of time, that exactly what this show was doing was that, you know, we're gonna have dino battles, and each of these places are different battle arenas.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it matters, like as far as what goes in each area.
Oh, because they're going to be dead before they're comfortable in their environment, right?
Exactly. Like it's not about like they store a lot of the dinosaurs in the like compound. Like they don't even like the Stratosaurus is just like behind a door in a compound. And I don't think it matters. Like, but some of them, like the Rexes, apparently live in there. I have no idea, but but I think a lot of these were just battle arenas, which I think is pretty cool. Like if you're playing Mortal Kombat, you're like, I'm going to pick this character, and then I'm going to pick this backdrop because I want to battle here because it's really cool. And I think that's like, it's like here, it's like, well, let's get some of the investors and some people, you know, today we've got a battle here, a T-Rex versus a Kentrosaurus.
At a recreation of Big Rock National Park.
Yeah, you can make anything you want, you know? I imagine, I don't see the technology. I just don't understand. Like, how is all this? Because it's like massive snow biome that like it needs like these snow gliders to like get across, and it also has ice and water. That how deep is this? I don't know. There's mountainscapes, it seems like, and there's snow. Like, where's the snow coming from? I don't understand it, but like I'm willing to suspend my disbelief with a lot of these islands. But it's an interesting one that I just don't. You're just going to talk around in circles. But let's move on to the dinosaurs themselves.
Before we go on to the dinosaurs.
Oh, okay. What do you got? What do you got?
Can we talk about the island that this show was not set on? Because it feeds directly into the dinosaurs.
Okay, Isla Sorna. Which, man, this bummed me out, man. Like, because like all signs pointed to Sorna, and that's why we talked about it so much, right? We talked about every little thing that popped up about this season. It's like, oh, the spine. Okay, well, yeah, it's probably Sorna. So we're probably going to go to Sorna, but then there's like a desert place that just maybe exists somewhere else. Like it's going to be and we connect it to a live tour. It's like, oh, it's the, you know, the desert out in the whatever, I forget where in Chile, like somewhere out there. It's like, okay, that's definitely this, but we didn't go to Sorna, and that is a big bummer. So
yeah.
I don't know. What else we had about Sorna?
I don't think that it was a big bummer that we didn't go to Sorna.
I know you don't.
I am very happy that we went to a brand new location because I think that's what we need more of in the franchise. However,
the problem with the brand new location is we don't know anything about it still. Like
exactly.
I wish the location mattered.
This is what I'm getting onto. This show, as I said in season 1, we haven't done season 1 of reviews. I meant to say our non-spoiler review, not season 1 of our reviews. And in our non-spoiler review, I said that this show seriously lacks some exposition, and nowhere is this greater evidenced than when you get a throwaway line from Cash saying that some of the dinosaurs are from Isla Sorna. And that's it. You don't get any other reference to what has been happening on Sorna, how Manticore have made it onto that island, or what other assets were recovered from it. And even then,
well, there's like 3 instances or 2 or 3 instances of Sorna popping up, but you're right. It's all like, well, we got the DNA from there, or this dinosaur came from there, but that's it.
That's it. It's not explained further, which is incredibly disappointing. Because at this point in time, if we're to take into account the viral marketing, whether you want to hold it as canon or not, apparently the dinosaurs have mysteriously disappeared from Sorna, right? This explains how it's happened. why aren't we exploring that further? Why aren't you showing us more about the Manticore operation that's happening there? I mean, even if you just have like, say, Darius walk in on Cash on a video call with somebody who's on the island extracting some of the dinosaurs, something like that to just really let us see more of it. 'Cause while I don't think this whole season needed to be set on Sauna, if you're making that connection to it, you need to deliver because it is something that fans have wanted to see for so long. So to just tease
Yep.
it and then not build on it anymore really does highlight what we were talking about when we say this season has some good ideas and it wants to tie into them, but it just doesn't fully commit to them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to fault them for doing, not doing much with Sorna because like that's just not where the story was going. But some explanation as far as like the dinosaurs that they did get from Sorna, like when was that? Like when did
Yeah.
that happen? Like was that like because all of this would have had to have happened pre like Jurassic World opening
Yeah.
because as we've referenced many a time that like the dinosaurs were whatever was left on Sorna was taken to Nublar, and that's it. That's the end of the story. So when did this happen? This must have happened prior to that, right?
Yeah.
Unless the reports of all of that stuff happening was a lie, which is also bogus. But like I don't know. I wish there was some information as far as like why
The
did they do this? When did this happen? And stuff like that. And I think, yeah, I don't know.
the thing
What
that gets me, Brad, is I feel like a lot we get quite frustrated that there's not more lore, but maybe this shows why there isn't. Because even when there's a tiny little bit of lore, it still manages to get convoluted.
I don't know. I see, like I'm a part of multiple fandoms and stuff like that. And I think when it comes to moments like this in other fandoms, like the lore is explained a lot, and then you
Yeah,
do get like multiple instances of things being explained. Sure, not everything is, but like there's always the chance that it could be explained in something. I think when it comes to Jurassic, our outlets are few and far between. So when we
yeah,
want these answers, we kind of want them ASAP, because there's a chance we may never get any kind of answer. So
yeah,
that's why I feel like this is a little bit different than like, hey, Star Wars like let a question out there and they didn't really like resolve it because hey, they're gonna resolve it, 3 books later or something, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
it's gonna happen. But let's go over to the dinosaurs real quick. Dinosaurs were really cool this season, and I'm gonna start at the very end here with the Dilophosaurus.
Oh my
Fine,
god, man.
finally back.
Yeah,
This thing looked amazing. Like, I thought this was brilliant.
yeah,
Like, it looked great. It was very quick, and it reminded me a lot of what you see out of, like, Jurassic World Aftermath, how, like,
yeah,
stores are popping up and you, like, shine your light at them, and then it's like, they're gone. And that's kinda like what happened here where, like, the snow glider thing, came out, and then they were gone. They were out of there. But, so they were very, very awesome. I love seeing them back
yeah.
finally,
Me
in the
too.
franchise.
I liked how the way it was built up as well. They say there's like this big new asset
Mm.
or assets arriving, and you're thinking that it's going to be this huge new dinosaur. And I think at one point I was like, "Oh, it's going to be the Giga." But then when they turned up and it was the
Yeah.
Dilophosaurus, I was like, "This is so much better than any big dinosaur you could have done." And it's the fact that they nailed the 1993 design for them as well. Like they look spot on to the InGen
Mhm.
Dilophosaurus that we know and love. So it's
Yeah.
cool to think that those Dilophosaurus must have come from Isla Nublar, which means we finally know what they look like at Jurassic World as well, and they were the exact same as their predecessors.
Yeah, that's why this is kind of confusing overall is because, like, some assets are being brought in real time. Like
Yeah,
the pteranodons were, like, just brought in or something, and then the Dilophosaurs, which they did mention, like, they're eating or something at an unprecedented rate or something, like, so that was
yeah,
really cool. But, like, they are still harvesting things currently, but also we have dinosaurs maybe from, like, 1997, so or later, a little bit later. So the Dilophosaurus there, that's really, really awesome. I think that was really cool to finally see them back. And that setting and everything was really cool. We also had the Mosasaurus. fantastic attack sequence. I thought that was really well directed and just visually cool to watch. Like seeing that Mosasaurus attack, latch onto the boat, man, that was awesome.
Yeah. Well, mate, it felt like a different interpretation of Jurassic World: The Big Catch. Really did.
Exactly. I know, right?
But
It
that's
was
this
spot
is
on.
what I think is so cool, is the fact that we might not know what's going on in the universe, but ever since that incident at the start of Fallen Kingdom, there'll be these random encounters going on in the world, like maybe a fisherman boat that's also out on the water and
Yeah.
has an encounter with the Mosasaurus, and that's just so cool to me. They become like almost like this part of mythology, you know, something like the Morag, where you hear a story about it and then one or two people have an encounter with it, but nobody else can find it. It's really awesome to think that's what a lot of these creatures will be in the current
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah. Yeah. We also had the saber-tooth tiger. It was really, really cool to see. It doesn't really play like a
Yeah,
huge role in the show, but it felt like it was just more so setting the stage for the future. I
yeah,
feel like, we're gonna show that this is possible, that not just dinosaurs are created. I mean, this is the third thing. We know that dinosaurs have been created. We know humans have been created, and now we know saber-tooth tiger has been created.
that
And
second sentence did not feel right.
it's real though. And like you said, the Siberia stuff with the woolly mammoth and things. So who knows? This was the only thing which I know Scott Kramer hinted at it. I think it was like EW article or something. He said that like, there might be other non-dinosaur things. And I guess maybe he was referring to the hybrids, which maybe that's where he was going with that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything
I
else other
think I
than like,
yeah, I deliberately avoided saying anything about this in our non-spoiler discussion because I didn't want to tease that there'd be more than
I did.
this. Yeah, so yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it's nice seeing it. I would have loved to have seen more, but I think we do still have quite a number of animals in this season, and with the kind of pacing it follows, I don't really think you could have squeezed anything else in naturally.
Yeah, yeah. So the hybrids though, I think they were pretty amazing. Look, I mean,
Yeah,
they were fantastic. They were so cute, and I love them so much. I love that the creation of the Sinoceratops and the Spinosaurus. Like
yeah,
that was beautiful. And so this is a moment where like we learned that Cash, intimidating Sammy's family, and then Sammy getting that Sinoceratops DNA to that drone, and that drone comes back to wherever Cash is, and then they create this dinosaur. And we also had to mention that I think that they said that the Spinosaurus DNA was from Sorna. I don't remember
yeah.
specifically. Um, but no, actually, I don't know. Did they mention that, or did they say, because they said that the Brachiosaur DNA was from Sorna?
Uh,
I don't know if they mentioned the
I
Spinos.
think the Spinosaurus is a live asset from Sauna. No, no, the T Rexes are. So yeah, it must have
Yeah.
been the Spino
So
DNA.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with the Sorna Spino, and again, we'll talk about that in a second. But very cool to see these two things mashed up.
Yeah,
Obviously, the Spinosaurus has no love for these things. It's not like it's like, oh, my
yeah,
sort of son and daughter. It doesn't care. It wanted to eat them. But
yeah.
we have to talk about this real quick. Is like Colin's out there in the world saying, guys, no more, no, we're not doing hybrids anymore. And sure, he said that in relation to films, right?
Mm.
So, but what does that mean? What do you take on that? What's your take?
I think it's natural for there to be more hybrids. I've said this and I always stand by it. As more companies experiment with DNA manipulation, more things are going to go wrong. So it makes sense. It's just the natural evolution. And if you're against hybrids, then you're against the very core fundamentals of Jurassic. So, you know, that's
Yeah,
my hill. I
I,
choose
I,
to die
I
on
agree.
it this evening.
No, I agree with you, man. I know a lot of people find a big difference between a hybrid of multiple dinosaurs and the fact that the
Yeah.
dinosaurs could technically be viewed as hybrids themselves, just the normal dinosaurs. So yeah, but it's interesting that it's here even after Colin said no more
Yeah.
hybrids. So I don't know what that's going to mean for the future, and
I
whatever
tell
happens
you,
to Spinosaurus here, I don't know, you know?
One thing I would have loved to, and again, this is just me being weird and being Tom and wanting too much from something, is I would have loved to have seen them experimenting with hybridizing the Spinosaurus with other stuff as well, and maybe it hadn't worked quite as well, because it would have been so cool to see a nod to the Spinoraptor from Jurassic World Evolution 1, because that is one of my favorite hybrid designs we've seen in any Jurassic media.
I don't even remember what that looked like.
You're
I
dead
didn't
to
play
me,
that
Brad.
one. I don't even think I played that one.
Did you even play Jurassic World Evolution 1?
Just the main game, nothing else. It probably came from the Secrets of Dr. Wu or something, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. So never got around to that. But yeah, it would have been cool to have like a list of other things, but I'm not gonna fault them for that. But this one was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I need these toys ASAP.
Yeah, me too.
Which I don't know if we'll ever get two, you know, like one of each Angel and Rebel, but I want both of them because it's
How
cool to
did
see
you
the
remember their
variation.
names?
Because I wrote notes and for each and every episode, and I remember, you know, so it's just the way I work.
I didn't do that. I just blag it, mate. Yeah.
But anyway, there's also Firecracker. Don't forget about Firecracker, the Brachiosaurus.
I genuinely was sat looking at that name like, what was that animal? I don't remember it.
Oh yeah, I had that in the notes there. But yeah, but I want that Angel and Rebel toy, you know, the darker blue and the lighter blue. The darker one
Yeah.
was the male and the female was the lighter blue. They both had the red eyes, which was really cool. Such an awesome like little creation.
Yeah.
The Spinosaurus, let's talk about that.
Oh, yes.
So this is another thing that like when we talked about our non-spoiler one, it was like let's like not fully commit to the lore in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. So that was a bummer part for me that it's like it's never explicitly stated that it's the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
But like even though Scott Kramer said it might be the one that we've seen, you know, before, but you know, they're not going to actually tell us. So
We were
in my
talking
mind,
about this a lot as well, and the color scheme looks quite different in different scenes. So I was
yeah,
convinced in one scene that it was really sandy colored, but then in another scene you sent me a screenshot of, I was like, oh, do you know what? It
it's
does
just
look like the
exactly
JP3 one. Yeah.
That's hard because like this is a fact of life for Jurassic fans. It's like you know, there's images of the Jurassic Park raptors looking green. So
Yeah.
therefore every instance of a Jurassic Park raptor needs to be green. And we're like, it's not green. You know, it's not what it is. So that's the fact of life here with this dinosaur as well. It's like, well, I actually like this interpretation. I think this is like a very like
Yeah.
good visual representation of the Jurassic Park 3 one. So to
Yeah,
me,
I
it
agree
is.
with that.
I love this dinosaur in this
Yeah.
season. Sure, it definitely like played the role of like dopey villain dinosaur that these kids can easily get by, which is the case over and over again. But you know, everybody was able to get away from it not
Yeah.
everybody in Jurassic Park. There's a few people that couldn't, but
Cooper.
but it was pretty cool to see here. And the one instance which was awesome was the kids are getting chased. They got
Yeah.
chased by the Spino. They get chased by the saber-toothed tiger, and they're cornered. And the
Yeah.
Spinos blast through the rocks and just crunches down on that saber-toothed
Yeah.
tiger. That was amazing. That was like such a
You
cool moment.
literally stole the scene I was going to mention. I think that
Oh,
that scene convinced me that it was the JP3 Spino, because you see how aggressive it is at trying to get at these kids, and it will not stop until it gets them. And that's
yeah.
the Spino we know from JP3, just doing whatever it can, like running through a fence to try and eat these people. So it was really cool seeing that kind of more aggressive behavior chosen for the animal again here as well, to sort of keep it feeling consistent with what
Yeah.
we've seen beforehand.
I forget. I think it may have been mentioned at some point that it was extra aggressive. I don't remember where or if that was real or if I just made it up.
I
But
think Cash might have said it as he was sending Darius out to feed it.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And that all was really, really cool. Like I love that moment. And I loved the moment where they tried taking the hybrids there at the
Yeah.
babies to see if it was like, you know, the place for them. And there was a moment where they escaped into the tunnels and the Spino like reaches in to try to stop the door,
Yeah.
just opening it, but then it
It's
closed on them.
kind of like the Indominus Rex scene from Jurassic World, wasn't it? Which is really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It was pretty awesome. So I thought it was a good use of the Spinosaur. Like I
Spinosaurus
had said,
first hybrid confirmed again.
Don't start, man. We're not going there. You get me in trouble. All right, so the Spinosaur is very cool. So I dug it, and I think it was wisely used. It wasn't the main villain or anything like that, which they had eased us out of that thought process ahead of time. But
Yeah.
pretty cool. Another one that I want to bring up here is Big and Little Edie. So
Yeah.
who are they? What's the deal here?
They are
Who are they?
the
Tell me.
Tyrannosaurus Rexes from Isla Sorna. I
What?
believe
Explain to me.
I believe it is the doe and the juvenile all grown up. That's how I'm interpreting it. Because it's like mother and daughter. But it could also be some of the other Rexes on Sauna we never see.
I don't know, man. It's a hard one. I have no idea. What episode was that?
So one of them has a design that perfectly matches I think it's
Okay,
the Lost World male.
so yeah, the Big was darker. So Big was the darker
Yeah.
one. And Little was brown.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't know. I
The
again,
issue is
like,
one of them basically looks like the Jurassic World Rex, which isn't that useful when it comes to identifying them.
I think they mentioned that Little Edie is the female. So the little one was the brown one, and that's the female
Yeah.
one. So
But they say mother and daughter. So both of them must be
yeah,
female.
yeah. So they're both females. So
Unless they're
this is
assuming that they're both female because they don't realize that there
no,
were males. No.
no, they're not doing that.
Just shut
No.
that down completely. Cheers, man.
No, they're not assuming anything, and I'm not gonna say that anything's an assumption here. We've got one of the world's most renowned scientists working with these dinosaurs, to study them, and she's referring to them in this way. So this is where the lore and everything strays for me. It's like,
Yeah,
well, what is this? Are we saying that? Are you guys trying to say that this is the mother from the Lost World? The
yeah,
mommy's
and the
very angry,
child all grown up.
and then
Yeah,
the child all grown up. But in that movie, it's like it's referred to as a male, and
yeah,
it's
and it's lime green. So,
well, yeah, no, okay, thanks.
so
Um,
I'm so sorry I've ruined that train of thought. The other thing to bear in mind is the adult here does look a lot like the Rex that's in JP3. So it is possible that it's that Rex, the juvenile from JP3. It's grown up.
sort of. I feel like that one even was more so green. But again, it's just like a non-committal thing here. Like it's
Yeah,
like we're gonna say that these were brought over from from Sorna. They said that these two were
yeah,
brought over from Sorna. So have they been here since maybe right around 2001, prior to 2001? Like
yeah.
right after that? I don't know. Um,
You see, what they
but
could have
yeah,
done
like
is to solidify it for us. All you would have needed is something like these two were brought over from Sauna. There was a male as well, but we couldn't contain them. They lived in the woodland near some cliffs, so we thought this was the best environment to keep them in when we brought them to the island.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I have no explanation. It just kind of boggles my mind because like I'm trying to think of this
Yeah,
rationally. The only thing that
I
I can
think
come up
that
with is like, hey, the story, we didn't get the full story, and that there's a daughter T-Rex also. And it's like, why do I have to create this story in my head to make it work?
yeah,
I
I
don't
think
like
the issue.
I wish it was, you know, realized to its potential
Yeah. The
instead
issue that boils down to
of
it here really is the fact that the patterns aren't spot on. And I think the thing is yes, Camp Cretaceous does take some artistic liberties, but if you're going to do something like bring in a familiar dinosaur, you do kind of need to get it right because people know what they're going to be looking for.
yeah, I don't know.
But if you want to talk about dinosaur designs from Sauna not making sense, shall we come to Pierce in a minute and go forward to the Raptors for a second?
Look, I want to just say about Big and Little Edie, I'm not happy about whatever happened there. I wish they had you know, made it just the Lost World male child or something like that
Yeah,
instead of saying that, this was the case. But I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. But let's talk about those Raptors. What's the deal with it?
yeah.
What do you got to say about the Raptors?
Okay, so I know that there's been some conjecture that there is a Jurassic Park style dinosaur in the Lost World. And to the defense of that, Jurassic World Evolution 2 does have a 1997 skin that looks like the Jurassic Park Raptor. So
Yeah,
clearly
it's
they've had
supposed to
files
be
from
the
ILM.
female. It's supposed to be
So
the female version of the tiger raptor. Is the
yeah,
Jurassic Park raptors are the females and the tiger stripes are the males.
yeah.
So
So I'm
never
assuming
saw
that's
any
what this
males from
is meant to
Jurassic
be
Park.
here. But my issue is, why
Yes.
would you not make it something like the Tiger Raptors? Because we've not seen them again.
I mean,
I
look,
just,
these raptors don't need to be anything. They never say anything about these raptors, I don't think, do they?
yeah, no, they don't.
So and it's been confirmed within the show that they create their own and they gather from other places.
Yeah.
So maybe they just created their
Oh,
own.
Brad,
But yeah,
that then.
it's weird because the Raptors are another point of contention because it's like we had maybe assumed based off of merchandise and different things that have been released that like we're gonna start seeing the Jurassic Park 3 Raptors, but
Yeah.
that just didn't pan out at all. And whatever Raptor is here, I don't know. And it kind of looks
The
like
issue I
from the
have,
video, but not exactly.
yeah, is I don't think they are ones that Manticore have made because they are the in-gen design, and I don't think they'd be the in-gen design if Manticore had made them. So I I could get behind it being the female of the
Yeah.
Lost World Raptors. That's fine with me. I just think it would have, if you're going into the realm of saying, "Hey, we're getting
Well,
dinosaurs from Sauna," it would have been nice to see a little bit more diversity. But I get why it's not the case
yeah.
because it's just
Well,
a waste
yeah.
of assets.
Again, I'm not gonna fall. Oh, don't give me. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
so. Oh no.
don't get me
Oh no.
started on that. But so I'm not gonna fault them for things that they didn't do that maybe I would have wanted them to do or something like that. But like, yeah, any kind of explanation. But I think that there could have been these could have been creations that they made, and that's fine. And because I think like all the DNA that we've heard about is something that was extracted from somewhere
Yeah.
else, from
But
Nublar. So
Brad, it
their
doesn't
assets are
say
gonna look like
InGen on the side of that
no,
raptor.
no. So all of these assets are extracted from Nublar, which of course their assets would look like they're from Nublar.
Yeah.
Um, and garages as well. But besides that, let's talk about Pierce for a second. Pierce,
Oh
what do you
wait, I just clicked what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I was really off kilter with this series going back to Nublar.
Oh yeah, I know,
However,
right?
I still think it is going to, and we can talk about why at the end.
Sure, we can. Yeah, there's a bunch of points that I didn't add in the notes, but yeah, that garage, man. Let me just say, when I saw that on whatever this island is, my heart dropped. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
a reused asset from Nublar. I'm like, this is because like we all thought that they were going to be going back to, you know, Nublar based off of that image that of the garage that is exactly the garage that you see on Nublar, but they didn't. So that was a bummer.
yep.
But also,
Sorry, community, I set your expectations
yeah,
too high.
we all did. Yeah, it's a bummer. Actually, before we get to Pierce, since we're talking about reused assets, um, another point here was Yaz had a dream, and
Oh yeah,
it didn't seem like a dream. It didn't really have dream tones or anything like that. There was actually a sequence where Darius described a plan and it looked like a dream kind of thing,
yeah,
like him describing what the plan would have been. But this dream sequence didn't look like a dream. It just looked like normal life. And then you see Yaz out in the jungle. She picks up a notebook. You're like, whoa, what's her
yeah,
notebook here? And then all of a sudden, the Indominus Rex pops out. And you're like, dude, I stood up
mate.
and I was like, no,
Yeah,
no way. Oh my God.
yeah,
I freaked out. I was like, this is crazy and really awesome. That's why you
yeah,
didn't tell us what the main dinosaur was. And then also, which we got to talk about, and we teased this a lot prior to it, but I had mentioned that I had received an email from them, the press release thing for the season that it included an image in there of the Scorpius
Yeah.
Rex, and I didn't
The image
share it.
is still out
Like,
on the web now. It's still
it's
out
still
there.
out there. Oh yeah, I didn't share it because I'm like, maybe this is probably a mistake. It was probably a carryover from season 3 that they just didn't mean to include in this email. It was also in the Dropbox thing that they gave us access to. But then later on, I went back to the box and it was gone. It wasn't in the Dropbox anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, okay, maybe this was a mistake, like a real mistake. And this thing is actually in season 4.
Yep.
And it was in season 4, but that it was just a dream thing. And I was like really
Yeah.
bummed about it. So that didn't happen. And the Carno, so Toro, I guess, was in there as well, and a Ceratosaurus.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
that bummed me out, man. That bummed me out.
the dream sequences suck. But the fact that they show Yaz experiencing PTSD was really awesome.
That
I
was,
didn't think they would
yeah.
do that, and taking the
Well,
time
not
to
awesome.
actually well,
Not awesome per se, but it
yeah.
was
Well,
good to see
it's
them showcasing
awesome that
stuff.
they are taking the time to communicate about mental health, because that
Mhm.
is something that the films never do. You never take the time to think about the emotional and psychological toll that these films and the events that happen in them must have on the characters. So I
Yeah.
thought it was really, really good to see the writers actually taking some time to make us think about that. And it was handled really, really sensitively as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciated that. It was a long running thing that, like, hey, we're gonna, showcase how bad this is for Yaz specifically, but also show that other characters are experiencing this as well, and that they're
Yeah.
hiding it from other characters because they don't want to, like, let them down and stuff like that. And characters are really struggling with performing their duties, in the plan or whatever. They can't get stuff done because of this trauma, and I think that's pretty great to show. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I didn't put anything else. Well, we'll get back to it here in a minute, but, yeah, actually,
Pierce. Oh.
Pierce, yeah, Pierce. Let's start with Pierce again. Pierce is very cool. I
Yeah.
felt sympathetic for this dino, seeing the health dwindle and stuff like that, and, like, be so close to dying and stuff. I was like, "Oh, man, this poor dinosaur."
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Made me think of Jurassic World Evolution 2, where I see that happening, except I just let them die because the vet unit's
Ah.
so hard to use.
Yeah, you don't have as much sympathy for that one, huh? But yeah, it was a great dinosaur, and I love that it had a name, and
Yeah.
and
And
so
it's a
it did really well.
Kentrosaurus, so it's a new species for the franchise as well, which was really
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, that was great. The Pteranodons really didn't play a role here. They just, had one
Yeah.
little sequence with the tablet and stuff like that, which was fun.
Although
Firecracker
it's cool, I will
had,
say, just quickly, it's
yeah.
cool to think about the fact that maybe that's why there weren't any pteranodons attacking the helicopter, the helicopters that went to Nublar, because they'd already been extracted by Manticore at that point and were on their way to the facility. Because if you think about, oh wait, no,
Oh,
there
they
were
did.
in season
They
3. They
did.
do get attacked. Yes,
That's why I
ignore
was like,
me. Yeah.
wait. No, they did.
Yeah, they did. And
But
that explains why they're not in the film, because they're attacking the helicopter on the other side of the island. So it makes sense.
sure. But Firecracker was, oh man, that dinosaur, dude.
Yeah.
That whole thing, which I want to kind of carry this into, like, the next point, which is, like, the controlling dinosaur.
Oh my god, yeah.
So Firecracker, this is something that made me, like, super emotional, just watching them, like, perform this, like, quick, like, almost like surgical thing. Like, they're just, putting the thing in the chip in her, and from that point on, she, like, doesn't have control of her own, feelings and
Yeah.
abilities and stuff like that, where, like, Cash can instruct her to stop, and it's just like she's just frozen, and it's terrifying. You can basically, like, see her like tearing and just, like, trying to move,
Yeah.
and the dinosaur can't move, and it's just horrifying to watch. And
It's very gut wrenching.
it was dark. It was dark, and
Yeah.
this is what I talked about in the spoiler free. I was just like, man, that's heavy stuff. That is dark stuff to witness.
Yeah.
This is what I feel like could play a role in the future. I could
Yeah.
definitely see stuff like this happening where, some company has it set up where, like, this is what they want from their dinosaurs, is the ability to control them, essentially.
Well,
It
and
was, Good.
The interesting point here is this shows that Manticore have got further than InGen, because Wu was only able to make the Indoraptor respond to a laser beam. He didn't have direct control over every facet of the animal.
Yeah, that is an interesting point to talk about there. Yeah, the fact that like that's all he could do, but this company and no, not even this company, this single guy was able
Yeah,
to like to do this. So that's kind of weird, but yeah, what does that mean for the future to be able to control and to do like that is the added layer
yeah,
that Wu needed, right? Like to be able to imagine having your own raptor squad that has the
yeah,
ability to not and this is like something that has been laid since Jurassic World. It's like we're talking about control and even Jurassic Park, the talk of control. Like it's literally a layer of conversation that has been there from the beginning is control. And John Hammond never had control and it was all an illusion. And then in
yeah,
Jurassic World, the whole thing is about Owen controlling these dinosaurs, with his cues and stuff like that in his hands and his clicker and some food. But now you've taken it to another level where you literally control the dinosaur. So I feel
yeah,
like that is like a natural progression, kind of like you're saying how Monarch naturally progressed their technology over the years. This has been naturally progressing since 1993,
yeah,
and
definitely.
you're at this point where you can control a dinosaur now. And imagine putting that into Blue or something like that,
Yeah,
where you can, like a full raptor squad of these dinosaurs or Indoraptor squad or something. Where
yeah.
you take them and send them into battle and control every aspect of them. That's
Do you
pretty
know
dark.
what's really interesting with this as well is going back to that point about the Indoraptor not being as controllable, is it kind of reiterates what Wu said in season 3 about losing the research, setting him back. Because you see that he starts at the same endpoint as Cash, but because he's not got all of the data and everything, he's gone back to the start, whereas Cash is taking the natural next step in what's already been done.
Mhm.
So it kind of reiterates the stakes of the kid stopping Wu from taking away that research as well.
That's possible. Yeah. Yeah, I think that messed him up a lot.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah,
you see play out a lot. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is such a dark plot line, and I think eventually what you need to do is, you have to be able to take the emotional stuff. So you take Dr. Walker's research
yeah,
and remove the emotional aspect from these dinosaurs, and
yeah,
you hit them with this chip that you can control them, and therefore you
yeah,
literally have a killing machine that doesn't
yeah.
care that you're controlling it. Like this dinosaur cared that it was being controlled, and who knows? Maybe you can crack that code eventually, but as a dinosaur. But this, if
Yeah.
you remove all inhibition there, that's pretty crazy. So I
Well,
feel like a big part in the future.
the interesting thing is when you think about it, this is the culmination of both the live show and the Ibris program, because the
Mhm.
two were meant to be two sides of the same coin, weren't they? And the research was going to go together eventually to form the whole. And this is probably what that end result would have looked like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if we'll see that in Dominion, but I highly suspect that that's going to be something that plays into it.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that would be hard to go up against. Is like controlled killer dinosaurs.
Well,
That'll be tough.
it'll be hard for any assets that are bred in the wild. But remember that Jurassic World assets already have some kind of biochip in them because that's how they were tracked on Nublar. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if that factored back in to some extent.
yeah. I don't know if it's like a hackable thing, but I think that's just a separate thing altogether.
It's going to be Watch Dogs Nublar edition.
So I want to talk about let's talk about the characters real quick because that's all we had
Yeah,
here for the notes for the most part. So the characters we talked a lot about them in the spoiler free um, episode, and I love these characters, the relationships. I thought Kenji and Brooklyn was like something that I expected coming for a long time, and
yeah.
if you listen back to like any season 3 content, we I figured that the reason that Darius and Kenji were on the outs was because Kenji was into Brooklyn, and he
Feels
probably
bad
thought
for
that, like
Darius, bro.
no, well, yeah, he probably thought that there was like some competition between him and Darius for Brooklyn's heart. And he's like, I got to distance myself here,
That
and
was so dramatic. A competition for Brooklyn's
no, dude,
heart.
that's literally, I feel like, because like in season 3, there's like a lot of moments where Brooklyn and Darius are getting along together, and Kenji's probably like, why can't I have that? And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna win her over and save the day. And Kenji actually was just an awesome character, and I feel like this is like his season in a lot of ways.
It's
Like,
his redemption, because I feel like at the end of
Mhm.
season 3, he's quite alienated from the rest of the group.
Oh,
And you
of
kind of
course,
you see that at the start of this season, and then he slowly mellows across it.
yeah. And not only that, like he is the hero, like, of so
Yeah.
many situations here. He literally, like, he would put himself in harm's way. He did that to
Yeah.
save Darius in the beginning. He did that to jump on the saber-toothed tiger,
Yeah.
And so, like, he is constantly putting himself in harm's way to help out others, and I thought that was pretty great, and it just shows the
Yeah.
the growth of that character. I think Brooklyn said it in this season that, like, hey, in season 1, I didn't think we were gonna be friends at all. I
Yeah.
think this
Yeah.
guy, and
She
then
doesn't say in season 1, to
no, she
clarify,
doesn't.
just for anyone watching.
But yeah, but basically, it's like, hey, when I first met you, I didn't think we'd be friends whatsoever, but now here we are, and me and you are most alike. And then the fact that
Yeah.
they like struggle, like you see Yaz, like, being like this, like, person who's helping the courtship and stuff, and and Darius is happy for them, and so it's like
Yeah.
they did some really great stuff here with the characters, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Plus, I had mentioned like the inclusiveness here, and I thought that this show has always been really, really great about it's just showing such a wide demographic of characters and people acting in these parts. And then there's a moment where Brooklyn's like, because Brooklyn is also like another major player this whole time, where she is the one who also helps save the day in so
Yeah.
many instances, and maybe even more so overall when you think about it, because she is so smart, and they really focus on that. And they don't just throw it away. It's not just like a throwaway, like, I'm smart, which a lot of shows and a lot of movies will do that. It's like, this character is just smart for the sake of being smart. They actually showcase a lot of why she's smart, whether it's her YouTube channel and all the unboxings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which they mentioned unboxing Brad, and I'm like, that's an interesting one. I don't know if I want to watch that, but
Oh God, no. No.
but no, but there's also the fact that, like, they set it up in the beginning that the reason she knows a lot about this stuff and she's very helpful is because of her 2 dads. And I was like, this
Yeah.
is amazing. Like, this is a great show that really gets it,
Yeah.
and it gets to the heart of these characters and being inclusive to so many different kinds of people out there. And I was blown away by the ability to do that better than the films have ever tried.
Yeah. I agree with that fully. I think you're spot on. I think it makes everyone feel like they can have a place in the Jurassic franchise, which is what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, so these characters were awesome this season. I really, really enjoyed them. Ben, he's like, he's
Leave Ben
fairly annoying.
alone. You always
He's
pick
fairly
on him.
annoying.
You always do a really bad impression of him. You
Hey,
just
man, let's
you need to
rephrase
leave
that.
him alone.
Not really bad. It was really good, actually, is what you meant
Prove
to
it, Brad.
say. No, I'm not gonna prove it. But no, he was slightly annoying this season, just because he was like, he had this interesting thing, which I was wondering how deep of a commentary it was, where he was relying on his instincts and his feelings a lot more so, and his connection with things
Yeah.
instead of science, which I was like, that's like an interesting point of discussion currently, where, like, he's like, I don't believe in the tech that you're using, Dr. May Turner. He's like, this is, I don't need the science. I can trust my instincts. And Dr.
This
May
is
Turner's
going
like,
in a direction I was not ready for, because I
well,
get the
this
parallels you are talking about now.
this is what happens in the show. And she's like, well, science is the reason we have these things. And he's like, well,
Yeah.
look, I'm like, that's not the reason. That's not the way I expected them to take this character. But okay, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's perhaps maybe something that I would rather not have in my Jurassic world currently, because there's a lot of that kind
Well,
of stuff in the actual world
yeah,
currently.
we'll see how a lot of that plays out in the future too. Because I
Ben's
think
going to be the kind of person who goes back to the mainland and doesn't believe that dinosaurs have broken out there.
yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing is like we've seen that kind of commentary slightly in the films and stuff like that with Fallen Kingdom. There's a little bit of that. So I'll be interested to see how it moves forward. But again, I just thought these characters were great. I loved pretty much all of them this season around.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they were
May
pretty.
Turner's the standout for me. I thought she was a really
Yeah.
awesome addition, and it's cool seeing it's cool seeing a recognizable dinosaur researcher who isn't Dr. Alan Grant. I thought
Mhm.
that was really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dr. Grant did get a shout out this time
Yeah,
around. It's funny
he's
because like
got to turn up next season. If he doesn't, I'll be disappointed
look,
now.
I don't even want to
Guys, I'm not setting expectations, okay? Don't assume that that's going to happen. Please don't assume that that's going
no,
to
don't
happen.
assume. But when you're setting this up, that like Dr. Alan Grant is such a huge character for Darius, to not have Darius meet Dr. Grant eventually would just be like, oh man,
Yeah.
I really want to see that eventually. So
I still
hopefully that.
remember when I thought Mitch was going to be Grant because I saw the blue shirt and hat
Oh
from
my God, well,
behind him.
speaking of them, they had some lovely photos in their
Yeah,
cabin on the boat, which was hilarious.
yeah,
But no, but Mitch and Tiff set this expectation of like we can't trust people, and there was a moment where like they had said like, oh, it's just so great that we have somebody that gets it, that somebody that to rely on with Dr. May Turner and not be some other adult that we can't trust.
yeah.
So that was good to see. But yeah, the characters were great. Any other points worth talking about here before we I have one
Let's have
final
a
thing, but
think.
anything else?
Um,
Overall, reiterating our thoughts from the non or the spoiler free one. There was a lot of things that I had said on my pros side, which I think we talked about here. There was a
yeah,
few cons, but the few cons outweigh a lot of the pros, I think.
yeah,
I think watching the season a second time definitely helped out. It like helped me like chill out a little bit on that rewatch. But
yeah,
things like the failure to fully commit is tough to the canon.
yeah,
Um, the big Edie, little Edie thing, it was hard. The Brad X, oh my gosh, that's a big downside for me. But the
yeah.
things like Kenji's dad and a lot of the dinosaur moments, the character moments, the potential for the next season. There's a lot of good in here, and I'm really really
It
excited by
feels
it.
a bit like season two, doesn't it? Where it felt a little bit more like just a transitional season to get them to this new location.
Yes, yes and
Um,
no. Yes and no. See, I made that comparison too, and I was like, I don't know if I should even make that comparison because season two felt like it really didn't give us much of anything. There were a
yeah,
few plot points. Obviously, the boat, was a big one, but like a few of the plot points and the Scorpius getting out was a big one. But like it felt so inconsequential, that whole season. This season, at least, while it feels similar in nature, like tonally, it feels very consequential for what's going to happen in the future, at least. So.
yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head on why I think this is a good season, despite my problems with it. Is when you think about dinosaur fighting, trading dinosaurs and taking dinosaurs from other people, reverse engineering the technology. Those are all things that are going to be super pertinent in a post Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom universe. And I think this, when they say this will connect to Dominion, I think that's how it is. I don't think there's going to be a direct connection at any point. I think this is just getting us to expand our horizons and think a little bit more about what might be going on. So, yes, Dominion is probably going to be a story that focuses on a specific group of characters doing a specific thing in a world where there's now dinosaurs in the wild. But it's thinking about all these other things that might be happening, the moments of wonder and awe where you get to meet somebody like Pierce, for example, but also the moments of horror where people with more nefarious intentions are pitting these creatures against each other and abusing them. And I think that is really where this season resonates, is it makes you think about the real breadth and depth of storytelling that is possible now these animals are a part of the world, essentially, and it is a Jurassic world.
Yeah, I honestly didn't expect the conversations to be as like as fulfilling and happy about this season than they ended
Yeah.
up being, because upon my initial watch, I was very like, oh man, like this hurt me, that hurt me, this hurt me, and I'm like taking it personally, because of all my thoughts and theories could have happened. But in the long run, you can't really fault something for not doing what you should have, you thought
Yeah.
should have happened. So what they ended up doing was interesting to a point where I can accept a lot of it, but then there's other things that like really tarnish it for me. But I'm in this in between state still, but I definitely have a lot of positives here. But I want to talk about something because Colin Trevorrow said that his favorite episode was from this season, right?
Oh
That was like
yeah.
something that he had said. What is this? What is his favorite episode? Like,
I reckon it's the
hard.
Rex and Kentrosaurus fight.
You think so?
I could see him enjoying that. Yeah. Well, what else? What
Maybe.
else would Colin enjoy?
I see. I
Uh,
was wondering, and I forget specifically. It might be like episode 10 or 9 or something like that. Taking control. Let's see. Um,
yeah, I was. Is that the one with the Brachiosaurus scene?
um, yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I could see that being it as well. But
Yeah,
also, I reckon he
yeah,
would have
it is.
really
It is.
enjoyed. I think he would have really enjoyed a lot of the stuff with May Turner and all of the animal behaviorism, because that seems like
Yeah,
something that he's tried to explore quite a bit in the World films.
yeah. And a big part too. Um, so reason I think it's got to be episode 10, which is taking control. It feels like a very big episode, where at the beginning of this episode, it's like Ben refuses to name the Brachiosaurus because he doesn't want to take ownership of it. He doesn't want to be attached, and he's like, he doesn't want, that
Another
emotional
Bumpy.
connection with Bumpy. And he's
Yeah.
like, he thinks that maybe Bumpy is out there. He probably forgot about it now. But you know,
There it is.
yeah. And at that moment, my son actually like looked when he was talking about Bumpy, and he's like, Dad, I really miss Bumpy. And
Oh,
I was like, "You're right. Yeah, me too, man. I do too." And then I think is this the episode where this is the one at the end, right?
yeah, yeah,
Bump,
yeah.
Bump,
It
yeah,
is.
Bumpy comes out, and they actually show Nublar again. They showed,
I was
the
right, guys. Nublar was back in the show.
Nublar returns. Yeah, but Bumpy lays down and is very sad and very upset.
Yeah,
So I feel like that lays a lot of groundwork for the future. I
yeah.
still think my theory is in play. I still think my theory is in play, which
What? Which one, Brad?
I
You've
hate
got
talking
several.
about.
Well, you're
No, my
going to
theory
talk
about
about it now.
I know my theory about season 5, or whatever the final season. If this is the final season,
Oh, where it lines up with Fallen
it skips
Kingdom.
ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, it skips ahead, and they try to track down Bumpy. I think that is the way to go. Like, because like
yeah.
you're seeing this connection here, and I still don't want them to ever go back to Nublar. I still feel like that makes no sense. So the only way to do
Well,
that is to have Bumpy go to the mainland. You know.
we forgot to talk about a very important detail. Darius
Right.
manages to get a phone call out to his brother in this
Oh yeah,
season.
yeah. We did
And
forget.
the last location that his brother knows that Darius was on is Isla Nublar. So he's not going to have any reason to think that he's on a different island at this point. So his brother is going to go to Nublar looking for Darius.
And that kind of
And
caused
that
a
is
lot
how
of.
Dave and Roxy can come back in.
Oh, whatever. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not speculating too far, but I think that like that creates a little issue for me because like we've seen zero attempts to rescue anybody, you
Yeah,
know? And it's like, well, obviously we know people can get there. We saw that with Dr. Wu, right? And
yeah.
we know that somehow Cash and crew over at Manticore are extracting dinosaurs. But we've never seen a rescue attempt. And it's like, are we
Mm.
going to really say that the kids just weren't ever seen, or they were somewhere else, they were underground in a bunker or something, like, I don't
I
know. So if I struggle with that, because if Darius's brother can get back to the island, why couldn't anybody else come back to save them? So
because
I
they don't know
I
they're
think you're right
alive.
though.
I
But no,
think
who
that's the issue. So
why
if
is
there's
no,
so
but they saw them. They saw them. They know that they're alive because they saw the monorail going when they were leaving
um,
the island, right?
I
David
don't
and Rock.
think you ever see them acknowledge it. No,
No,
I
there's a
think they just think that
David
the kids
Rock
are on their
know that.
way.
Maybe,
Because
but
they have the radio call with them, so they know that they're on their way, but that's the last they hear from them. So they presumably just assume that they die on the way. And the point I was going to
no.
make is, say for example, something like an earthquake. When that happens, the reason why you look for survivors and people who are missing is because the damage is done and the danger is gone. With an island like Nublar, they're not going to waste time looking for people who are MIA because the threat is consistent. It's always there. So they're just going to stay missing.
I don't buy it. Even if it's not a rescue operation, why has nobody gone back to this island in 6 months? You know,
There might be military quarantine in place.
that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I don't get
Didn't
it.
make any sense having one on Sorda.
No, we're not getting into that. I don't get it. But if it seems like he's probably going to get back somehow to that island or something, or
Yeah.
maybe he'll be
And
flying.
he'll find the helicopter pilot who went missing, and together they'll both
Maybe.
bring down Manticore.
That could be cool. That could be cool. But I don't know, man. I don't know. But I think going back to the other thing, I think it would be episode 10 for Colin, just because of the dinosaur, the controlling aspect, and the fact that maybe it sets up the future with Bumpy and stuff like that. So it could be cool. I think maybe episode 10
getting controlled.
Oh no, I don't mean that. I just mean the
mate, that would break my heart. That I would cry.
You can't do that to Ben because he already experienced it once with Firecracker, and that gave him the, like, seeing him realize that, like, he had a connection there because of that moment. You know.
Do you know what would be really ironic? If these dinosaurs get returned to Nublar and Firecracker grows up to become a literal firecracker.
And on that note, everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening to our coverage of Camp Cretaceous Season 4. It's finally out, and you've seen it, I hope, at this point. If you didn't leave and you just listened to all those spoilers, sorry. But you know, come back for more content like this all the time on our channels and our podcasts. New episodes every Monday. And yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff coming up in the future here. So please go to JurassicParkPodcast.com. Find all of our links over there. You can find articles from Tom and others. You can find episode show notes and all the links to our social media at Jurassic Park Pod on Twitter. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. We're all over the place, so go follow us on all those places. And Tom, where can people find you if they want to online?
Hit me up at Tom_Jurassic on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, if you want those burning hot Brachiosaurus takes, please follow Instagram. You can follow me at Brad Ghost on Twitter as well. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Tom, for joining me once again. Until next time, I guess. I'm not going to talk to you until season 5 comes out. So I'm going to make a point of doing that because I'm tired of the Brachiosaurus take. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy.